A comment I get on my videos from time to time is, if I had $100,000 worth of tools like you do, I could do all that stuff too. But I don't have $100,000 worth of tools. Not even close. So in this video I'll talk about how much some of my tools cost. Let's start with my table saw. I bought this because it was on sale at the Home Depot right about when I was setting up this shop, and it cost $900, but there's a $200 in-store rebate plus a $150 rebate mail-in, and I was able to use both of those, so this saw ended up being a really good deal. It's not a perfect saw, it's only a hybrid saw, and it had some problems. Specifically, the arbor had a bit of wobble to it, and I actually ended up grinding it out with a stone. And of course I also had to tweak all the alignment, but when you buy relatively inexpensive tools, that's something you expect to do. The fence on this saw is one that locks both on the front and the back. That unfortunately means it's possible to lock it when it's at a slight angle, but at the same time, as long as you're careful, once it's locked, it really won't move because it's held down on both sides. Next, my drill press. Drill press is really another one of those must-have tools. You really can't get much done without one. And this one, I think it was on sale for 50% off at Canadian Tire. This is back in 1999, and I think I paid somewhere around $150 to $170 for it. It's not a great drill press, but it does the job. It's better than the tiny little ones, and it's got a decent amount of travel with the quill. My main annoyance with this drill press is there's really only two speeds that I use, which is this speed, and then to go any slower, you pretty much have to move both belts like this. So having the 18 speeds on here is really quite a nuisance. If it just had 2 pulleys and 5 speeds, that would actually be much more useful. Behind the drill press I have all my drills, and these ones, I think I bought these about 20 years ago. These ones here cost about $30. This set of big ones here, I think I paid about $70 for this one more than 10 years ago. The hand planes mostly came from yard sales for a few dollars each. Although I think maybe this one, I think I might have bought this one new. I don't know, it was such a long time ago. And I think this one might have been a Christmas present because it's also new. The yard sale ones, I never bothered to quote restore, unquote them. All I did is just clean up the rust and sharpen them, and hey, they're good to use. Most of the hand tools are just from yard sales, like these chisels here. A funny thing is, I saw a video of the Wood Whisperer, and he was saying, but for some things where it really doesn't matter, he just bangs on his shitty Marples chisels. Well, my Marples chisels are my good chisels. So these hand tools, it does add up if you buy them all at once, but you don't have to. You just get what you need as you go along, and I've always just been waiting for stuff to come on sale before I buy anything. The next tool that you really got to have is a bandsaw, and I used to have a 14-inch bandsaw right here that I bought at a wood show, and I think I paid about $560 for it. I've since replaced it with a homemade one, which cost me a lot less and works a lot better. But to build a bandsaw from scratch, if you don't have any of the materials, doesn't really save you much money. Building a bandsaw can be quite cheap, but the thing that you're most likely to have to buy is the bearings and the shaft for it. This is a shaft going through. I did use plumbing pipe for my 14-inch bandsaw, but I think spending a few bucks to buy a proper shaft is well worth it. The other thing that can be expensive, if you don't have it already, is the motor. This is a 1.5 horsepower furnace motor. It's not terribly powerful, but I've never actually run out of power on this saw when doing regular stuff, so I think even a 1/3 horsepower motor would be alright. If you have to go to a hardware store and buy a motor, those can be quite expensive. If you try to buy a 1/2 horsepower motor at Canadian Tire, that will run you probably $200 to $250. So if you're paying that much for the motor, it's questionable whether you should build your own bandsaw. Another machine I consider very important is a jointer. My first jointer was a 6-inch jointer, and I paid about $700 for it back in 1996. They can be bought for a fair bit less now. This is my homemade 12-inch jointer, and of my homemade machines, this is actually the most expensive machine that I've built. because for the mechanism from a planer, I paid $200 for a planer, and then I paid another $70 for the metal on top of here, and another $70 for the Baltic birch, and plus miscellaneous bits here and there. I'm probably in about $400 on this one. By comparison, my brother bought a 6-inch jointer at some point used, and I think he paid about $150 for it. If you are going to get your first jointer, get a 6-inch jointer, because anything wider than 6 inches is going to be about twice as much, and anything less than 6 inches is generally junk. This is my thickness planer, and I paid $200 plus tax for this one. I bought this one actually to take apart to make my jointer, but it turns out it was a better planer than my old Delta planer, which I actually paid $400 for back around 1998. So I decided to keep this one and smash the Delta planer for the jointer. This is my 6x48 inch belt sander, and I bought that one around 1996, and I don't know, I paid somewhere $70 to $150 for it. It's actually an attachment for a Shopsmith with its own stand that it all came with. And I'm not a fan of this one. The belt tracking on it is terrible, and the tensioning thing doesn't really work. But I actually use it quite a lot, so I do recommend getting a belt sander like this. But if you don't have one, you can always use a handheld belt sander for most of the things that I use this one for. This is my scroll saw, and I think I paid $35 for this one at a yard sale back around 2007 or 2008. People sometimes ask me if I could design a scroll saw, but given that I could get one so cheap, it's not really worth it. And I've even I picked up 2 scroll saws from the garbage one time, one of which I gave to my brother. The other one, when I found this one, I put back on the curb and let somebody else trash pick it, because old scroll saws, a dime a dozen. And then for my shop out in the country, I also have a scroll saw there, and that one is a Ryobi, and I think I paid about $25 for it at a yard sale. This here is my lathe, and it's super solidly built. It weighs a lot more than I do. In fact, just to get it on the stand, I had to take it apart because I couldn't actually lift it. I paid about $70 for it at a yard sale, and it came with a 1.5 horsepower motor, which I've since then used on my first homemade bandsaw. And instead on this one I have a 1/2 horsepower motor that I picked out of the garbage. People sometimes think that I don't have a lathe because I never use it, but that's not actually true. I do use my lathe because I use it to hold up my scroll saw. Actually, I do use it very rarely. Lathes are useful for making very ornamental type of things, and I'm just not into ornamental things, so I don't have much use for a lathe. I prefer my chair legs and table legs to be straight instead of round. This is my dust collector, and it's the brand is StartRite, and I bought this at a surplus sale. It's only got a 3/4 horsepower motor on it, but it actually sucks much better than the one I bought from Busy Bee for $150 with a 1 horsepower motor on it. It's got a huge filter bag and a huge bag on the bottom, so I hardly ever need to empty it. This is my other dust collector. It's my homemade one, and on this one I spent $25 on a really crappy table saw that wasn't even depth adjustable, and I bought that just for this 2/3 horsepower motor. The other things that cost money on this is if you don't have polyethylene buckets already, those cost a bit of money. There's ABS piping on here. The switch came from the saw, and it has 2 relatively good shop vac filters in it, and those cost a bit of money as well. Of course, there's also a bit of wood that I used for this, but most of the wood that I used was trash picked, so it didn't cost me money. Oh, and I do use this dust collector with 20 feet worth of hose on it, mostly to suck up dust in the shop, and that hose was by far the most expensive part of the dust collector. This is my first table saw, and I paid $135 for this one at a yard sale back in 1996. It was in a bit rough shape, quite a bit of rust on the table, and the fence that came with it was junk, so I threw it out. It did need a new arbor because it wobbled a fair bit, and that part cost me $50. But after I replaced it, it ran really smooth, and the cut quality is excellent. This is my Panther Rotor machine, and if you want to buy a machine like that, by the time you bought it with shipping and all, you're looking at $1,000 or possibly more. I didn't pay any money for this because I got it as part of a royalty deal working with Coleap on these, and by having this machine I was able to shoot some good video on how to assemble it and how to use it, and also came up with a few design improvements, so it's worked out well for both of us. But you don't really need to buy a pantry router, because if you really want one, you can also build one. This is my homemade pantry router, and this is the very first pantry router that was ever made. And if you want to build your own, I sell plans for it on my website. This is my strip sander, and I bought that one about 5 years ago because it was on sale for 60% off at Canadian Tire. And it's turned out to be quite handy, although I do find a few things a little bit frustrating about this one, but for the price, I couldn't really complain. But just a week ago, I finished building this, and that's another strip sander. It uses longer belts, and I think in many ways it's better. It certainly fixes all the things that I found frustrating about this one. And this machine is actually the reason why I don't have a project video this week. It's because I'm trying to finish up a set of plans for this one, and hopefully I'll have those ready by next week, along with a video on how to build it. So it's far from $100,000 worth of tools in here. Of course, if you buy your tools from Festool and SawStop and Powermatic and Felder, I'm sure you can get up to $100,000 relatively easily. But to get started, you don't need that much money. So if money is your excuse for not building anything, you'll just have to think of something else, like I can't build anything because I need to watch so much TV.